Seth, I don't know if you saw what the KCSN social accounts put out a little bit earlier today. A truly breathtaking prompt that I did not know was going to be there until it was online. And now it's really given me something to think about. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't. I
Fantastic.
usually don't.
Good. Well, yeah, that's both with social media and me. It's frankly better to not know exactly what's going on. KC Sports Network tweeted out, "You're hitting the road for a cross-country trip. You can only pick one podcast to listen to the whole way. Which car are you riding in? You get The Lab, you get That Football Show with Tucker Franklin and Matt Verderam, and you get 21 questions, and you get Only Weird Games." Obviously, we're not riding in the Only Weird Games car now that we're picking it because we're in the Only Weird Games car in the exercise, and I can barely deal with one of me. I do not need another. So with those remaining cars there, I mean, where are you putting your bets right now? What's the best hang for a long road trip?
A long road trip, I think, if it's because it's only this, right? It's the only thing you can listen to.
And I think really, I'm putting us in the car. Like, I think it's really just like we're hanging out. We're hanging out with the people on the show.
Right. We're hanging out with the people in the show. I thought we were hanging out listening to the podcast the whole way.
I can say, well, I'm saying in this case, I think a lot of people have taken it in the direction of like, what car am I hopping into?
Sure.
I'm getting in the Only Weird Games car. I'm getting in the Only Lab car. I'm getting in the 21 Questions car. Getting in the football.
And we're already in the Only Weird Games car, and it's a big car that, man, I've really butchered this for you. And
that's okay. I could have set it up better. You hadn't seen it.
And so I think, it would just be such an interesting thing, I think, to be with the Lab guys, just because we do have a pretty big crossover of interests in terms of like kind of going beyond the box score and that kind of stuff. And then also because there's unique connections, obviously the Lab guys, kind of their nascent stages. We're at my old stomping grounds at Arrowhead Pride. Kent is like really good friends with someone that I knew way back in high school. Well, I was in high school. He was in junior high. And like Craig, I've known forever. Maddie Lane, I've known forever, just from like Arrowhead Pride days. So I think I would choose them because I pick familiarity. And you know what? But I feel bad for Matty V then because I've known him forever.
No, that's okay. I think the only issue with that version of the Lab that's you and all three of them is I don't know that any of you are at a point in your life where it's safe for you to drive at night.
That would hurt.
I'm going to say if I'm riding along, the correct answer is the car with Tucker in it, and Verderam is a hell of a bonus. But if I'm just listening to one, I'm taking 21 Questions, Seth, because I just listened to the most recent episode of 21 Questions, and it was two of the best people in this network, Craig Stout and Ryan Scott Hall. And they talked a little bit of football for some reason before spending a solid 40 minutes on their love of food. And I'll tell you what, not only if I get that poll, the variety of 21 Questions is really important for a long road trip like that. But if I'm getting Craig and Ryan, we're stopping at all the best eats along the route. And that's important to me. That's my free cross promo over the last edition of 21 Questions. But right now, only two of us. Joshua Brisco, Seth Keysor. We have our room to stretch out in this Only Weird Games car today, as Nate Taylor fittingly is on the road. But we'll chat with him in a little bit. Nick Springer currently in the driver's seat as Tucker Franklin is on the road and we'll be back in at some point. I'm sorry I picked a bad time to throw that intro, Nick. I was truly doing my best. My best is never, ever, ever prevented, mistakes happening at every turn around me. So anyway, I feel good about it. I'm ready to jump in any of those cars. I feel good here with the capable hands of Nick Springer producing the effort, and eventually maybe Tucker will be here. Nate won't though. We're gonna let Seth really stretch his wings here today.
Oh man, okay, I'm ready. I mean, I don't know. Maybe before I need to go take my vitamins and go to the talkies for a little bit. I just want to note. So I'm scrolling through this here. Two things. One, and I understand how these things happen, because, you've got to set things up a certain way. The fact that the OGs, Ryan Hall and his Dirkness, are not on here as an option, Now, that would be, I think, maybe not as much anymore. I think back in the day, that would have been a very different kind of road trip.
Yeah. Also an excellent one.
An absolutely phenomenal one. Both of them are just so quick on their feet. I mean, just it's something that I really envy. I don't have that ability. But no, I'm ready to carry the burden. But here's the other thing that I did notice. I'm looking at the comments, and there's not a poll here. And I think our fearless leader, if it was our fearless leader who posted this, was smart not to. But we are cleaning up.
It looks good. The comments are looking good for us. I'm pretty happy with our role here.
We've often, this is, I don't know, since we have no Nate today, it's July. We're going to talk a lot of ball, but it's always fun to peel the label back a little bit every now and then. I don't think that's the expression, but that's okay.
No, it's definitely not.
What's fascinating about our show, and I hope people understand that we're acutely aware of this. We love our voyeurs. We love our eavesdroppers, and they love us, and they have returned. Like, it's been like a borderline relationship, sometimes an unhealthy one, but that's okay. And we love you all. We're also very aware that in terms of how people feel about Only Weird Games, it's not really a spectrum. It's more of a
kind of a binary.
Yeah, it's kind of a seesaw. There is people either love this show or genuinely hate it.
We're getting a lot of first place votes and fourth place votes. Is what you're telling me.
And that's why I never look at the Apple reviews, because it's always 5 stars and someone saying just the nicest stuff that I think about. Sometimes at night as I'm drifting off to sleep, and other times just the most mean-spirited stuff that I think about when I wake up at 2 a.m. And Nate Dogg, are we stopping for biscuits and gravy? Important question. That is.
We are, Nate Dogg. We are at 5:30 p.m. We're stopping for biscuits and gravy.
Man,
just for
I think I went to bed at like 8 that night. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Fun fact for listeners and voyeurs and eavesdroppers, peepers, whatever. I'm just going to make them increasingly inappropriate names. I had biscuits and gravy for breakfast today. Mrs. Minnesota Chiefs fan. I don't know why I still call her that, but I have.
That's why you work from home today, huh?
Yeah, well, that, and it's just so much easier than driving somewhere and showering and like.
Hey, boss, I'm not gonna make it in today. Oh, what's going on? Biscuits and gravy for breakfast. Yeah. Come on, Seth. On a Tuesday, Seth?
On a Tuesday. And I stayed awake all morning after eating them. I'm feeling pretty good about that, which at 40, that's already kind of like we'll see if we get there.
Yeah, I'm concerned about you getting to the end of this podcast, honestly. It's just the two of us, and I need your biscuits and gravy hangover to not kick in until 6. Oh, boy.
I could probably do that, although I'm drinking water instead of a buy drink today. So let's go. Let's see what happens.
I still have it's been a long time. I have a completely baffling relationship with your relationship with buy energy drinks, which appear to be the official soft drink of Seth Keysor and some moms. And I've never seen anyone else drink it.
And some moms. Okay.
Now, it's not even, I don't think a lot of moms are drinking it. Like you are by far the person in my life who drinks the most. Again, I'm going to say buy energy drink. It's also the branding isn't great.
Yeah. I think it's like a name from BAI. It's like,
it's a 3-letter name and you can't spell it. It's bad branding.
So their branding's fine, Josh. So here's the deal. They taste terrific depending on the flavor. Like my son really likes black cherry, and I tried it once and I was like, really?
Seth, everything tastes great depending on the flavor.
Well, no, but hear me out. Not everything. Like there's
it's like it's new Simbu strawberry, Sydney Sweeney's favorite.
Who?
Yeah, I would say, Seth, why don't you tell me 3 things about Sydney Sweeney?
Oh, you know what I do know?
For your life.
I actually know one thing. I know that, by the way, the strawberry buy drink, unbelievable. It's so good.
Well, the Sydney's strawberry, Simbu strawberry is a new flavor. So you got to try that also. She's on the box.
So it is that strawberry flavor. And the reason I know that, they also have a kiwi strawberry that's delicious. Their coconut pineapple's delicious. They've got a watermelon one. It's really good. And here's the thing. It's sugar-free.
Simbu strawberry, Sydney Sweeney's favorite.
That's a lot of alliteration right there. They don't have sugar. It's actual water, and it's got a little caffeine, but not like as much as you'd get.
What does
like
it's actually water mean to you, though? Because the first ingredient in Coca-Cola is water.
No, I mean like it's like actual water with like without having like it's not like juice concentrate as the primary thing, which is just another way of saying, hey, this is sugar. Want some? And so I'm trying to be a little healthier. And I actually have tried to lay off them lately. Funny story, though. I actually do know.
I doubt it.
I think I know who Sydney Sweeney is overall because I think they've got a picture of her. I'm guessing that's her on the thing, on the buy drinks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I bought this.
You bought that and felt okay about it?
I brought the 6-pack of buy drinks, and my daughter, Isabel, who's now 12 and is a bit of a firecracker, she sees it and she goes, Dad, why do you have the picture of a girl whose shirt is way too low? And I was like, I just saw there was strawberry. I want to drink it. And then I leave. I come back, and Isabel has put duct tape over the pictures of Sydney Sweeney on the buy drink. And then when I pull out a bottle, she's like, her picture's on that too? And she goes and gets the duct tape. And I was like, you know what? That's terrific stuff. That's the good stuff. Having a daughter is phenomenal.
Well, let's talk about quarterback play.
This is why I do this, everyone. Robert Cole, you're asking what we're babbling about. This is why I do the job. I do this to every now and then, like once every 6 months, I render Josh Brisco speechless.
Yeah.
And it's all worth it.
Yeah, and it's a combination. I mean, effectively speechless is correct, right? Like I am left speechless, but I'm left speechless not so much because I don't have words or thoughts or words to express those thoughts, but because I don't trust for those words to be constructive in a way that I'm comfortable sharing with both you and the entire assembled public that we face.
Well, and you already hurt my feelings once today, so we're almost out.
Yeah, that's true. 3 strikes and Seth ends the show, and there's no Nate, so I gotta make sure that I save. I gotta make sure I save the next swipe for the break, and then I only get one more strike after that. I'm also like I'm looking at vitamin water. I'm just trying to figure out how you develop. You have so few brand loyalties, in my experience, like observing you over the years, both doing the show and just with the cameras that I put in your house, and you have so few brand loyalties. This is such a strange one for me. But you know what else? Seth, you know what else you're loyal to?
What, Josh?
Other than your wife and your family and buy energy drinks?
Oh, my goodness. So many things. But what are you thinking of?
Good discourse surrounding quarterback play. And
I'm
Seth,
addicted to it.
I gotta tell you, my friend, I wish more people had this particular addiction because, frankly, I've been looking around. I've been turning on the television. I've been logging on to the internet. I've been hearing the radio.
That's the first mistake.
Lots of mistakes were made, but I've heard some things about quarterbacks over the years that I'm not so sure were executed in good faith. Answer me this in all seriousness, Seth. What was the straw that broke this particular camel's back of going, all right, time to write about quarterbacks? You all can't be trusted out here anymore.
I was planning on it. So I've started the Football 201 series. There was some discourse on the internet about offensive linemen and pressure and trying, like someone posted out like, oh, Lane Johnson was credited with giving up a sack here and Penei Sewell wasn't. What gives? And they were 2 sacks. And then like all of offensive line Twitter proceeded to kind of dunk on the guy. And it was like 2 snaps where it was like, dude, that because they're wildly different. And like one is, and so, but like when I looked at the replies, it reminded me of how many people, myself included, there's so much about this game that I don't know. And every new thing I learn about it makes me love the game even more. It's so complicated. And so I did that and people really liked it. They said they'd like more in terms of, what else? And quarterbacks is the obvious place to start because there's nowhere where there's more bad discourse. I would also note that this is kind of a bad idea by me because if I do this enough, people are going to be like, what do we need you for exactly? Like now that I know what I should be watching for, why do I need to hear you write an article about it afterward?
Seth, I've turned on the TV, I've logged on to the internet, I've heard some radio, and I think you're always going to have a job in terms of putting out the fires of bad discourse.
That is accurate. And so I was already writing an article about quarterbacks. And then I just, without going into too much detail, honestly, because some things are such obvious grabs for attention or attempts to zig when people are zagging. Like, there's nothing wrong with zigging when people are zagging, but if you're doing it, it's like, oh, well, everyone else drives on the right side of the road. That's dumb. I'm not a sheeple. Like, that's not alone a good reason. Like, it's kind of like everyone knew those people in high school who, like, they liked bands that objectively stunk just because, like, oh, I don't really like, I didn't like this. I only like this band until X. And it was always before they were popular. It's like, you're just saying that. You don't mean it. Now, some people mean it, and they're probably right. But it's just so whatever. So there was
work. Show your work. That's what
show your work. Show why.
Tell your story.
Essentially, what ended up happening is I saw some takes on Patrick Mahomes. One that it just reminded me of how poor a job we do actually talking ball in an industry where that's supposedly what we're doing.
Theoretically.
Now, this is a really good point from one of our commenters. VF is epic. I hope that didn't mean anything bad.
You're good.
From the show called Only Weird Games, the message is don't be weird just to be weird. But that is true. The weird has a purpose here. You know why we're weird here on Only Weird Games? Because we're just weird for one thing.
Yeah, it's
we
honest.
Really are. That's literally who we are, and anything else would be kind of fake. We genuinely make each other laugh in a way that I know can be annoying occasionally, but I laugh at Josh's jokes because I think he's legitimately funny, and we enjoy talking to each other because we actually care about each other. We don't do it just as like a bit. So anyway, the football discourse is so lacking in July. And I thought, you know what? Let's talk ball. Let's not talk about ridiculous. It's so easy to just say crap. And so I thought, you know what? Let's talk about things that are actually real and are actually related to ball. And so because I've written about quarterbacks so much, people might forget, but before I was charting every single game by Patrick Mahomes, I was charting every single game of Alex Smith. Like, I've been doing this for a long, long time. Actually, ever since Smith came Chiefs starter, I started doing this at Arrowhead Pride, where I was charting every snap and all that fun stuff. And there are a lot of pitfalls in analyzing quarterbacks, whether you're doing statistically or via the eye test. And I'm like, let's put them all in one place so I can. And the funny thing is, I probably got to like half of what I'd like to. Mm-hmm. So I want to just have it all in one place where I can talk to people about how to avoid bad QB discourse.
And I think you use the word pitfalls in the story, and then again there, I think it's exactly the right word for at least maybe not step one, maybe it's step two. Maybe step one is like calibrate your eyes to know what it looks like when there's good quarterbacking and bad quarterbacking, and you figure that out over time of just watching the sport. I think anyone who's been watching football for a long time has some baseline of that, right?
Oh, for sure.
But then avoiding those pitfalls, and you lay this out in the story. If people want to read through all the not even the methodology, but just all of the pitfalls and kind of point A to point B, go read it. Chief in the North newsletter, mnchiefsfan.substack.com. But the number of pitfalls around specifically quarterback discourse is different and worse than any other position in the sport, and maybe any other position in sports at all. Because you do, and I don't think any of this is necessarily bad on its face. Eli Manning's career has a totally different place in your head because he won 2 Super Bowls and had a couple of moments that you can envision at the drop of a hat. Right. You look at quarterbacks who are leading winning teams, those guys are by definition winners. Yes. You have the guys who get close and never quite make it. Those guys are by definition losers. Those guys usually, I don't want to spend any more time on this than we have to during this show, and then it'll happen again at some point this offseason. The number of Eagles and Bengals fans who won 2 Super Bowls in February. The Eagles actually did. The Bengals fans seem to think that maybe they did by just going, well, Mahomes lost the biggest game of his career by 150 points because the margin keeps getting larger as the offseason progresses.
Sure.
You remember the guys who lose on the biggest stage more than you remember the average quarterbacks who just disappear, who just kind of come and go and all of that, right? So you have all of that is vibes and eyes test, and maybe a big arm is rewarded, but everybody watched Drew Brees and you go, well, this guy's a surgeon here. Like, not from the beginning necessarily, but Drew Brees wasn't deep ball and YOLO balls downfield, but you can see good quarterbacking pop off the screen sometimes.
Yep.
You can also lose yourself in only remembering what your brain remembers.
Yes.
You can wash away. Every quarterback has dropped passes, as you use as one of the examples in here. You can also go to the statistical side, which I think is by and large a net positive in our understanding of football, by just being able to put some numbers into the storylines of it all to give us something resembling concrete evidence to support what we're seeing.
Right.
But completion percentage alone tells no story. Touchdown to interception ratio alone does not tell nearly enough of the story. I love the more recent evolutions in stat keeping, EPA per play, and the things that account for a little bit more context. But if that's the only way that you're doing this, you're not at 201, which is, again, kind of the all-encompassing umbrella of what I think we can kind of elevate here a little bit. So that just to kind of set the stage of some of the things that we're trying to avoid, some of the ways that the discourse has been set back, and we're in a media ecosystem right now where large, brash takes generally get more engagement, and engagement generally pays the bills. And so
it does. Good
nuanced takes are less lucrative than big wrong ones. And that's a bigger problem that we're having societally at the moment.
Yeah. This isn't unique to sports. I really do think that the way we talk about sports is a great way to think about how we talk about lots of things. And we don't need to go deep into that, but like an easy example, and like, I mean, another comment here. I mean, people will use one argument for one guy and then a completely different argument for another. That's so common in how people do things in terms of how they frame something. And what people are really bad at doing, generally speaking, including very, very smart people, much smarter than me, they're bad at layering arguments with consistency. And what I mean by that is people, will be willing to acknowledge that quarterback head-to-head stats are meaningless until they think it might support their argument. Right. Tom Brady fans will tell you that losing to Eli in the Super Bowl twice, losing to Nick Foles, losing so many times before the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game, which is fine, by the way. It's not a knock on him.
That's thing that happens to normal people.
It is a thing. I mean, he made the AFC Championship like half of his career, maybe a tad more. That's incredible.
Crazy.
But losing in the divisional round to Mark Sanchez or whatever, right? Those things, well, that doesn't matter until they want to talk about Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. And that kind of
and then it does matter, and then it matters a little bit less when it's time to have a Josh Allen discussion. But then we might say your Tom Brady Mahomes thing is dumb, and Josh Allen can't beat Patrick Mahomes. And we go, wait a second, I did the thing.
Yes.
Oh no, I'm guilty.
Yeah, that's such a great example, and I'm glad you picked up on that because we do it too. And it's hard not to. Trying to have logical consistency is just tough, generally speaking, especially when talking about things that you care about. The biggest thing, you mentioned statistical analysis. The thing about numbers when it comes to quarterbacks is the problem with numbers is that numbers are concrete, right? Mm-hmm. They give you something finite to point to. If you're talking in terms of, money, okay? Having $10,000 is objectively better than having $1,000. Unless you're going to do something weird like, well, not if one of them is actually yen. Disincluding stuff. And you can tell my kids are way too smart for their own good because that's what they would have said. They'd have been like, well, actually, Filipino pesos, it would be better to have,
well, I said dollars.
Yeah, I said dollars.
It's a different thing.
So
American, what if it's New Zealand Canadian dollars?
10 feet is taller than 5 feet. When you're
what if
just
it's big feet.
See, exactly. That was really funny.
Thank you.
But the problem with numbers as they relate to quarterbacks, and this is what I always tell people, statistics are not a bad thing to look at. They tell you what happened. That's a big deal. You want to know what happened. They don't tell you why. And so with the very first throws that I think I showed in this article, maybe it wasn't the very first, maybe it was, I don't remember. was one of the best throws Mahomes has ever made. It's actually one from, I think, 2018, 2019, because they're at the old Raiders stadium, with the baseball field and stuff, the Coliseum.
It's still my favorite.
Yeah, and no, that place was such a dump. It's awesome. I can't imagine what it felt like to catch a ball and go to the ground on that dirt.
I can't imagine what it looked like to watch football be played on baseball dirt, and it ruled.
It absolutely ruled. And so the thing to think about in this play, it's one that people might remember if they go take a look, Chief of North newsletter, et cetera, et cetera. He ends up under pressure, manages to evade it, and then sees that he's got a tight window. I think it's to Watkins, might be Robinson. And throws across his body, moving the other way on a rope into a very narrow window. And it's a borderline impossible throw to make because the defenders are converging. So that window is tiny. Incredible throw. One of the best he's ever made, and the receiver dropped it. On paper, what occurred. What occurred was an incomplete pass, but you don't know why. What might occur is a 75-yard touchdown throw. Okay, how far did he throw the ball? Now, some of the more advanced stats, you're starting to get some of that, air yards, that kind of stuff. But even then, okay, well, this quarterback has a really low air yards number. Okay, is that because he's afraid to chuck it, or is that because they never call anything where you're chucking it? Does he have a bad offensive line? What were their matchups like? What are his receivers? You don't know the why, you just know the what. And people utilize statistics to try to compare quarterbacks, and I get why. But the reality is, even with slightly larger sample size, statistics can't really account for, because everyone's like, well, every quarterback has drops. That's true. Or every quarterback has, benefits from yards after the catch. Every quarterback benefits at times and is hurt sometimes by scheme or his surrounding cast. That's an example of making a true statement to make a false point. Okay? That premise is true. And this is where I hope I don't get too deep in the weeds here. That premise is true, but it does not lead to the conclusion that all quarterbacks get the same amount of help. That's absolutely not true. And that's why people will say that, well, every quarterback has drops. Yes, that is true. Not every quarterback has drops at the same rate, in the same situation. Because oh man, he dropped it on 1st and 10 on a 5-yard throw. Man, that's a bummer. He dropped a perfect throw on 3rd and 20 that would have kept the drive going and let me accumulate, you guessed it, more stats. That's a much bigger deal. And that saying true things to implicate a false conclusion is a very common argument tactic. And it's something that we actually, so common, we do it to ourselves. Well, yeah, every quarterback benefits from scheme. No, Caleb Williams and Brock Purdy did not benefit the same way from scheme last year, and it's not even close. So you have to be able to sift through statistics, understanding that they tell you the what, but they don't tell you the why. And some people think that evens out over time. Well, here's the deal. Patrick Mahomes has been playing under Andy Reid with Travis Kelce his whole career. Mm-hmm. That will never, ever, ever, ever even out. And I'm going to say it in the way that'll bug Chiefs fans with regards to, say, a quarterback comparison. That'll never even out with Josh Allen, because Josh Allen never had Travis Kelce. That will, over the course of 6 years, that matters. Now, there's advantages that go the other way too, and disadvantages that go the other way too.
Josh Allen also never played with Kadarius Toney.
Correct. And see, that's you're starting to understand it, in terms of, not you're starting to understand it. I'm sorry. That was ridiculous.
I was going to let it go. I was okay. You're in teaching mode. It's okay.
You're doing such a good job of following. It's like, ooh, I'm teaching Josh things. I know you know all that.
And ball not round. Yes.
Ball bounce funny when it's round. No grab face. But that's where those things, they might even out over time. But when we're talking time, we're talking years. That's why, one thing I heard Robert Mays say that I thought was pretty good on the Athletic Football Show. He said, he knows individual wins aren't a quarterback stat, but over the course of 10 years, they are to an extent.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of truth in that in terms of regular statistics. They are to an extent a quarterback stat, but you can use it to separate really garbage quarterbacks from really good quarterbacks, or maybe even average quarterbacks from great quarterbacks, but you can't use it to distinguish between great quarterbacks. Does that make sense?
I think it does. And there's kind of a couple of phases of the next thing in the breakdown here. I'm going to let you take a nice long sip of your Sydney Sweeney Bywater, and we're going to take our time out here. When we come back here, Seth, I would like for you to just tell everybody the right way to evaluate quarterbacks. You can do that after the break.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner impossible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, there's nothing that beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And there's no simpler way to get in on the action than by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, so if you could just fix the discourse for us here, I give you up to 20 minutes. If you think it'll take that long, I'd rather it not. In all seriousness, again, in the newsletter, you can read like a lot of the things of like, hey, here's the stuff that you should be taking into account, and here's a whole other discourse that we touched on whenever it happened the first time through of like was effectively, I believe, was Justin Watson open? And that sent us through a week of social media discourse. I think, Seth, I would argue, I think, leave that chunk for the readers. So much of it's visual anyway, and we've talked about it here a little bit. But if you are now trying to maybe give a little bit of a starter's guide to people, or maybe just a refresher course for some people around the media world who may need it, how would you begin to repair the way that we talk about quarterback play?
I think the first thing that I would tell people to do is try to utilize some imagination. And what I mean by that is I've been finding myself saying more and more often to people, imagine what happened if this.
Yeah.
So like, for example, oh, well, that receiver was open and the quarterback didn't throw to him. And, you know, like you said, that one's best served like getting too in depth with the visuals and that kind of stuff. But when, you know, someone shows it to me and it's, you know, a zone coverage look where the quarterback's head, shoulders, legs, like everything's pointed the other direction of the field, so they're sagging. You have to imagine, okay, what would they do if he moves back that direction? These are pros. Remember how quickly they move and evolve. Understanding all of that in terms of the changing of positioning of defenders, I think that helps you. I think the other thing to do is you try to always ask yourself, asking that why question. Mm-hmm. Why did X happen? Why did Mahomes move out of the pocket? and it's hard to do in real time. Sometimes you miss something, whatever. Was there pressure? Had 4 seconds gone by and you could see him clearly going through his reads and then he took off. You can reasonably extrapolate from that for one reason or another, and maybe he missed it, but you probably won't know watching the game in real time. He didn't see anyone open. So you move into creation mode because you can't just sit back there for 20 seconds, usually. Ask yourself the why. Why did this play succeed or fail? And that's and was it the quarterback or was it the things around him? And so that's why I always kind of go back to one thing that stayed the same for years are the things that I chart for quarterback play. So I think that's what I'll talk about here. And I don't expect everyone to sit down and chart it, which, by the way, it's like, well, you're charting it. Aren't you creating another statistic? Yes, because statistics matter. They quantify things. One of the reasons I started doing this, true story, was I had people tell me when the Chiefs traded for Alex Smith that he misses like 10 wide open receivers down the field every game, and was very sincere. And multiple people were saying that. And I was like, that sounds really bad. Like, honestly, like I was very against the Alex Smith trade, having never really watched him play. So I was like, I'll turn it on. And that was one of the first things I ever charted were missed shots. Okay. And here's the thing with missed shots, again, all the caveat, understand what you're looking at least to an extent. And this is one of the things that I showed is like, if a quarterback is going through his reads and he throws to his first read because they're open, and read number 2 was like, I don't know, a backside post, and he wins down the field, that's not a missed shot. The guy was open. He threw it to him. You got to remember what you looked at in Madden, or what you looked at when you were watching the game live, or what you looked at when you were watching it on TV. That is not what the quarterback's seen. Right. I wish they would bring back QB cam. Yeah. There's got to be, with GoPros, there's got to be a way they can throw that in a helmet right here, because I think people would realize, holy crap, this is unbelievable what people are looking at. I know they've got some of those simulators now. Mm-hmm. And so for a quarterback, they see what they're looking at. Now, great quarterbacks have good peripheral vision, but you're going through your reads. You can't go through 4 reads at once. You can't look at them all at once. You're not back viewing it from a Madden cam view. You're going 1, 2, 3, 4, or you're just thrown to a spot, which is not uncommon. So knowing that, you should also quantify it, because the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can comprehend it? Your heart, your feelings, your vibes, they will betray you. You think that you come in with a preconceived notion, and it's like, oh man, this quarterback is great. And oh yeah, I guess he missed a throw or 2 this game. Right. But that's what you do. You minimalize what would go against your preconceived notion, and you maximize the things for what you came in thinking, right? So that's where I would have people tell me, oh, Smith missed, so many open receivers that game. I'm like, well, I actually charted, and it was 3. Now that's people. Well, yeah, but still, no, there's no yeah, but
no,
and that's where quantifying things matters. That's why statistical tracking is important. But you can combine the very best work, and I learned this from and he's gonna hate, from Craig Stout. With some of the charting he did for defensive stuff.
Love that guy.
Him and a user whose name I never actually know, called Busaf on Arrowhead Pride, they charted this stuff in a way that I was like, that's interesting. You're quantifying the film. Whoa. And right. Seriously, I'm not being sarcastic. That's what it was like for me. And so you quantify these things because that protects you from vibes-based stuff. Everyone, I just need the eye test. The eye test can betray you. That's why like a quarterback like a good one, Justin Herbert, very good quarterback. He looks perfect playing quarterback. And that eye test will kill you there, because then you won't realize, man, he really does go through his reads almost too quickly and doesn't give things time to develop and plays a little robotically for a guy who's got a cannon for an arm and can do anything you want from a physical perspective. So you can't just do the eye test. So here's what I look at, okay? And I'll go through this more quickly. Hopefully we've done a few caveats, a couple of the pitfalls to try to avoid. Ask yourself whether a play was created or yards were created by the quarterback. In other words, did the protection fall apart and he still made something out of nothing? And if so, how much did he make out of it? Because you can quantify that, right? That is a play created and yards created. So I chart both. He had 6 created plays for a total of like 43 yards, whatever, something like that. That's something you can quantify. And that's something like how often a quarterback is kind of carrying the offense a little bit as opposed to just benefiting from a really great system, really great supporting cast. Another thing is looking at multiple read plays. How often is the quarterback, going 1, 2, 3, making a throw? Caveat. Peyton Manning threw to his first read more than anyone in the history of football. Take a look and see what the quarterback's doing pre-snap.
Yeah.
Just because he got to the first read doesn't mean he didn't do any work there. Sometimes he did all the work.
That is an instance, and far be it from me to detail how Peyton Manning operated in the pocket. But Peyton Manning going to his first read a lot was because he got to the line of scrimmage and went, well, that's what I'd like to have happen. This is going to be my first read now. Here's the football, 8 yards.
Yep. Just time after time after time.
I need to just go watch I need to spend some of July just watching some Peyton Manning. It's been too long, and he was so special.
He changed the play so much, and so it was just...
They named a media company after him. He changed the play so much.
That's funny. So check for that. Ask yourself not whether a throw was complete, but whether it was accurate or inaccurate. And there's layers to accuracy. Was it in the right spot or was it in a perfect spot? Did you hit the receiver in the numbers or did you hit him in stride? There's a difference between that. And also with accuracy, look at what's happening around the receiver. Sometimes I've seen people like, oh, Mahomes threw the ball way behind the receiver. That's because there was a safety 5 yards away coming towards him, ready to decapitate him. That's why you don't see a lot of hospital balls with Mahomes.
No, very few.
Very few. There are some quarterbacks, you go back and watch, they got guys just depleted. I can't even remember his name now. The Vikings quarterback that they drafted in the first round, they were really excited about, but he didn't go well. I can't even remember his name. Christian Ponder.
Took me a second to let that load.
Yes, Christian Ponder got guys half near killed sometimes. And so watch for that. Look for accuracy. It allows you to separate, okay, did he have receivers hauling in a bunch of inaccurate passes all day? Because that's not really a great day from the quarterback. That's a great day for his receivers. Another thing to ask yourself are just drops and yards cost and situation cost. That's an obvious one. What kind of drop was it? What was the situation? Like I said, if you have 2 third down drops in a game, you don't just lose that 10, 15, 20 yards. You lose the chance at doing anything else. That could have been 2 touchdown drives. You've been given this incredible opportunity cost has occurred. So keep an eye on that and understand the situation. Potential interceptions. People hate that PFF tracks turnover-worthy plays.
That's a good stat. Sorry.
It's a great stat. If I throw the ball we'll use an easy example to dunk on Ravens. I don't know why. They're a good team and Lamar's a great quarterback, so whatever. But when Lamar Jackson threw that abysmal pick in the AFC Championship, right? Imagine if it had been dropped.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it any better a decision or throw. There's a reason Lamar was so mad afterwards because he knew. I'm sure as soon as he let it go, he's like, good, why did I throw that? And that happens, right? Mahomes has done it too. I'm sure right before Cooper DeJean inhaled that ball and went for a pick 6, Mahomes probably let it go and was like, nope, that's not going to work. You just know sometimes. But him dropping it wouldn't make it a better play. Again, what you're trying to do is ask yourself, what am I looking at here that the quarterback had control over? And am I crediting or faulting him for that? So that's why potential picks are important. That's why missed shots are important. It's a receiver who's open and he should have been seen. And you got to keep into account reads while you do that. And then happy feet's another thing I chart because some pressure's on the quarterback. And so those are the things. If you look for those things and to sum them up, what is the quarterback actually in control of and how did he do with those things?
I think let's just go ahead and pivot that into what you wrote about now been a week or so ago, because sometimes the quarterback is in control of at least where he's at in the pocket.
Right.
And that is one of the things you mentioned it earlier, kind of the kickoff of the whole 201 offseason experiment here. But you can connect those as much or as little as you want. But in terms of, I don't know if you've got like another dismount on the quarterback evaluation or anything, but so much of it is tied together. I was even thinking you're talking about, the progressing through the reads. Maybe the first read comes open a half beat too late. And you know what the quarterback's supposed to do? Be on to the second read already. Like
absolutely.
The order of that, the timing and the rhythm. Maybe we are worse off because of like some of the Tua discourse, or maybe we do too much with the like in rhythm offensive genius kind of thing. I don't know if McVay was a part of that with, when he made Jared Goff, I was gonna say, look like a competent starter, but he actually still does. So, maybe a little bit of column A, little column B there. But a lot of times that like on time in rhythm thing, back to Alex Smith, is used sort of in a sort of derogatory fashion of like, he's on time. He's keeping the clocks on time. He's keeping the trains moving. When in reality, every quarterback with a safe job is on time.
Yes.
Every quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, right up there with all of them. Josh Allen, one of the reasons he made the jump from a intriguing prospect to a good but kind of chaotic quarterback to a absolute animal at quarterback is that he got better at that. He figured out how to operate on time within the offense.
Absolutely.
And then do Superman stuff when Superman stuff was required. Also occasionally, 3 plays a year, he's Will Levis, and that's kind of wild. But that we'll see if that changes.
Yeah.
It's also intertwined. It's all connected, and that was, of course, also part of the conversation on the quarterback discourse, and the offensive line discourse too.
Right. So, like with offensive line, and I won't go too in depth here. You can go check it out. I think if you're someone who really enjoys football and doesn't always get what's going on with offensive line play, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't always get what's going on with offensive line play. In fact, I would say I often don't.
It's harder to evaluate in a bunch of ways. We don't have as many stats. There are 5 guys trying to make one job happen collectively. Often, I guess, more than 5 are involved in the protection.
Yeah.
The quarterback have them do the right thing.
There's so much to it. Every line has protection rules. I mean, there's a lot there. Only reason I know the very little that I know is because people who know the game have been willing to very patiently sit down and say, hey, what about this? Or like it all started with Jeff Schwartz just absolutely dunking on me on Twitter in like 2014, where he's like, A, that wasn't my job. B, that's not my man. C, we called the wrong play. D, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, touche.
In fairness, I wasn't supposed to know any of that. So
yeah. And he was actually, and I said, absolutely. Can you explain it a little more? This is great. Yeah. And he's been great. He's been a huge help with so many things. And I had kind of been like, oh, Jeff Schwartz, really, I don't know what he was thinking here. And so he answered, which is great. But you're usually not going to get that, especially with a team run by Andy Reid, because these are, state secrets.
Correct.
And so I think if you're someone who, I think you would enjoy that, because it allows you to really understand why sometimes a sack is on an offensive lineman and why sometimes it's not. The simplest thing to keep in mind, if you really want to help yourself with offensive line play, would be keeping in mind the idea of a spot. They are protecting a spot. They are not protecting a person. They don't know. I mean, obviously, like, Mitch Schwartz used to talk about it like it was super stressful pass protecting for Pat Mahomes, even though he's a superhuman, because you never know when your defender is going to be kind of like, and then just move away from you because you're no longer between him and the quarterback. Think of offensive linemen. Just ignore the fact that they're human beings for a second and think of them as fence posts that are just an object in between you and the thing you're trying to get. Think of it in terms of line of sight, right? You are trying to be between the individual holding the firearm and the target. I don't know if that's a great analogy.
I'm not, for the record.
Yeah.
I'm super definitely trying to be anywhere other than there.
And so their job is to stay between the quarterback and the guy who's trying to rush. That's a pass rush lane. It's its ability to get there. That's why they call it trying to get to half a man, with all these pass rusher moves. That's the goal for it, because if you can get it to where you're only fighting against half a man, they're not squarely between you and the quarterback, that means you can start to bend around their body. You can start to power through them and all that stuff. Well, if the quarterback moves from where you think he is, anyone could pass protect for a tree because it's always going to be right there. Now, on the flip side, good quarterbacks will also, if you start to lose a little bit here and there, they'll make you right with their movement. So watch for that. Ask yourself, what did the offensive lineman do there individually that led to that pressure, if it exists? Or ask yourself this, did something else happen that caused a rush lane to open up? And so the easiest example, and this happens for the Chiefs all the time, if Chris Jones blows up the pocket, right? He does something insane, and he just rushes to the middle of the pocket, collapses it, and the quarterback, who happens to be a good mover, bails left or right. What that means is both edges are now going to have a rush lane because their tackles are defending for the pocket and the quarterback ain't in there anymore. So, let's say like Karlaftis is going to pursue from the backside. Go watch highlights of George Karlaftis' career. Watch how many sacks he's gotten running quarterbacks down from the backside, because he's able to now take this really wide angle and just using that athleticism to run him down, and not having bend doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Thinking about stuff like that will allow you to really credit or blame, usually, not always, but usually, the correct individual. And by doing so, it'll allow you to have a better idea of what really happened on the field. Football is chaotic, but when you start seeing even a little, and I only see this teeny tiny bit, but when you see even just a little bit of the interconnected parts and all the individual battles going on during the course of a play and how they affect every other battle, it is really, really cool. And by avoiding those pitfalls, you can enjoy it more. And then as a benefit, not add to crap discourse.
And truly, I don't think anybody, and maybe I don't imagine anyone is necessarily thinking about it this way, but I don't think anybody needs to listen to this breakdown and read your story and then take on this responsibility that I have to go and correct the discourse the rest of the way, and I'm going to set the world right. First of all, you're probably not, at least not by yourself. We're working on it, but we got some work to do. But I really do think that maybe the most useful kind of subconscious bit of work that we can do, like you and me, and everyone involved in this conversation right now, is to get bored with the bad stuff.
Yes.
Because that happened to me a long time ago, and I see a whole lot less of it now. Honestly, there is a lot. If more people, and I think this is moving in the right direction, if more people were better equipped to just have a BS radar, to just hear something very small-minded, hear something that is a little misconstrued stat that's being blown out into a 10-minute television debate.
Right.
I don't need you to sit there and gripe or write an angry letter to any producers or anything. Just realize this isn't for you and turn it off. Find something, because there's never been more good discourse.
Absolutely.
More easily accessible, right? There's a ton of that, but there's never been more bad discourse either. So the thing that I think Seth has laid out what it takes to do good analysis there. My hope for everybody listening now is that you are just a tiny bit, or maybe a lot more, but just being a tiny bit better calibrated to, this is generally what good analysis is going for, and this is generally where poor faith arguments fester and then get into the pores of the entire sport.
Absolutely. And you know what? Since we're doing, a little maybe mini cheat steps to figure stuff out, if one thing to look for with analysis, in my opinion, opinions can vary on this. This is one I haven't vetted with Josh, by the way, everyone.
Oh, good. Oh, boy. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.
If a segment starts with some iteration of, I've been saying for a while, right?
Yeah.
Or I've always said, I've been trying to tell you. Now, do I do that sometimes? Of course.
Sure.
But is the segment being made to talk about the game or even talk about the subject at hand, whatever it is, right? Even if it's some aspect of the game, is it being made to talk about that itself, or is there a little bait and switch going on to where, you know what I really want to do? I want to talk about Seth Keysor.
Mm-hmm.
And that is there's a lot of main character energy, specifically, I think, in television stuff. And I think the medium is kind of set up for that. And I get it. Whatever. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. But
name one podcast you're on right now that love to talk about themselves.
I can't do it. Man, I love that 4 decision everyone was making, though. I mean, honest to goodness. So just watch out for that. That's one way. Like, ask yourself, like, do they start off with some version? Do they understand this? Is it time to? Probably not. Whatever you're about to say. Is it time to? Nope. Because if it was, you wouldn't have to lead with that. Because people would know. Like, is it time to start talking about whether or not Patrick Mahomes is worthy of the Hall of Fame? No. You know why? Because we all know he's going to go to the Hall of Fame if he walked out the field tomorrow. Please don't do that, Patrick.
I don't do this very often anymore.
Oh, no.
I typed, and then before hitting send, deleted several drafts around one particular clip that was going around last week. And the thing in the world that annoys me, maybe it's not the most in the world, but God, it's up there, is the I'm just asking the question. Again, is it time to say the Chiefs' run of dominance is over? Let me say some things about the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm just asking the question if it's time to ask the question. You baby. You adult baby. If you have an opinion and reasons for your opinion, go to town, big dog. Let's hear about them. That's okay. You've got a take that I agree with. Fantastic. You have a take I disagree with. If you can make me feel like maybe you care about it enough to have put some thought into it before the camera started rolling, I'm here to hear you out. My opinion's been changed by good arguments before. My opinion has never been changed by, is it time to start asking the question? I'm brave because I'm asking the question about the question. I have no appetite for that at all. I think that's a lower form of sports discourse than top 5 rankings, than hot takes about the Cowboys. Like, I think there is something at least like there's something WWE about all of that. That's like, all right, man, you're still poisoning the well a little bit, but there's some fun from getting some pro wrestling out of our sports discourse. There is nothing but weak, sniveling social clips out of. I'm asking the question. I'm asking the question.
I'm just asking. All that is honestly.
Now you are triggered because you said the answer to my question was no.
Yeah, and that's it exactly. I just have to ask. Okay, if you have to ask the question, then just ask the question and wait to see what the other person says.
Yeah, sure.
Don't ask and then here's all the reasons why the answer is yes. Don't do that. All that is an argument tactic. That's not actual discussion. There's a difference between discussion and argument. If you want to have an argument, have an argument. But
sure,
just say, it's like the whole kind of disingenuous, I think this changed my mind. It's kind of like flipping this burden of proof. Oh, I'm just asking a question. It's almost like hiding behind something fake. I completely agree. I hope, I'm sure, by the way, I'm sure I've done it. I'm sure I have. Yeah. I mean, at some point or another, phrased it like
absolutely.
that.
No, you were the person I was talking about just now.
It's not about the phrasing itself. It's about the way that this is executed. I completely agree. And it really is an interesting thing. The longer I do this, the more I see bad faith arguments given a lot of air, even when they're logically incoherent or logically inconsistent. They're a complete waste of time. Like, I mean, like, seriously, like, you see people, is it time to talk about Dak Prescott's legacy? No, he's not retired. Like, why? What? And that's just, and I understand we now live in a world. I saw a great clip once where a guy talked about how the last horizon for advertising is time. Because everywhere you look is advertising. Everywhere you look is people trying to get money out of their pocket, out of your pocket, and into their pocket. I accept this. This is the way of the world. Has been for a long time. I'm not going to change it. Eat Arby's. But now what people want is your time. That's what companies want. They want your eyeballs and your time. And you know the way to get that? To make you real mad. And that's not great.
Ethical hoops are important at this point in history, and we're trying to get some buckets around here. That's all.
We would love just a couple of buckets. So, I mean, so hopefully some of this has been helpful in allowing you to avoid some of those pitfalls, because I think all of that just distracts from the game, and it's a great game. It's such a fun game. I love T-Mac Wake. Only ethical discussions. Now, I don't know if that would have gotten nearly as much traction as Only Weird Games, but I want us to have only ethically weird discussions.
Yeah, I don't think only ethical discussions would have been as accurate as Only Weird Games has been, but the theme is right. Seth, last thing here for you. You know another pitfall that you couldn't escape today?
Going over an hour.
Nate and I did 54 minutes on Thursday without you. Here we are. Over the hour mark. And we talked about 2 stories that you wrote. We didn't even make it to topic 3, much less off-season lessons. We'll use topic 3 on Thursday. Hope to have Nate back for the reunion there as well. In the meantime, we have single-handedly, or at least dual-handedly, we have fixed the NFL's quarterback discourse problem. And I think I at least learned that you are the second most noteworthy endorser of Buy Energy drinks. Although I don't think you're probably getting a similar paycheck to their other spokesperson. So I guess I'll work on that for you if you want. This is also the end of the show, so you have to take us out from here.
Yes. I just want to clarify that I in no way believe that I would have the right to tell other people how they should advertise for things or present themselves on Buy Drinks. And the choices that my daughter makes in what she censors is not reflective of my belief that I should have any sort of control over that kind of thing. And I think it's really important that we all know this, and that Tucker really get me out of here as I gradually grab this shovel and start looking for an open patch of dirt, knowing that at some point this is going to catch up to me eventually.